Welcome back. So this video is about Teresa's teaching on the mind. I think it's an important one because the popular teaching that's out there today, which complements what she has to offer as well, focuses on what is the role of the mind when it comes to living from an integrated place, and when it comes from wishing to have more peace in our life, more joy, more presence, more stillness, when it comes to embodying spirit in this world. Now, I have been teaching meditation for 17 years, and prior to that, I lived in a Carmelite monastery as a nun for 10 and a half years. So I love anything that lets me swim in the silence, that evokes the pregnancy of fullness that comes from the deep harmony and oneness when all is still. And Teresa loved that as well. And everyone today seems to be hot on the topic of how can we be more present? And in that, how is the mind helpful and not so helpful? Well, I love the way she speaks about the mind, because oftentimes when I work with people, they demonize the mind. Oh, if my mind would just stop its rantings, or I can't meditate, I can't quiet my mind, or my mind is all over the place. My mind is the cause of all my dis-ease. And I disagree. I'm with Teresa of Avila. Now, I do believe that when we come to that place of deep silence and stillness, the mind is quiet. But the mind quiets of its own accord. Eckhart Tolle put it so well that the mind cannot quiet the mind. If you're trying to shut something off, you're using the mind to do it, and you'll go around like a dog chasing its tail. What I do think we're called to is to let our mind be a faculty that can serve us. Us Westerners put a lot of credibility in how we think and how well we think. Oftentimes, success is seen as to how cognitively brilliant you are, and rules out other forms of intelligence. So letting our mind actually be the faculty that's meant to serve us and not be the master, the mind then can support the process in presence instead of being what we point to as a reason we're not present. Does that make sense? Given her great contemplative gifts, where she would be absorbed into this unity and union for hours on end. And I myself, those experiences started for me as well at a very young age, but came to a huge climax in my late teens, where I was finding myself for 4 or 5 hours with all my faculties suspended and in a state of oneness that had no boundaries. I can relate to what Teresa said, that there's nothing more delicious than that. In fact, everything about yourself becomes even more sharply tuned and more effective in this worldly life. But she noted that when everyone was turning to her, that they oftentimes just wanted to jump right into that state and find a way just to shut the mind off. She said, no, what we want to do is find a way to harness the faculty of the mind until the very center of our being moves us in a way that the mind becomes irrelevant. This would be to focus upon sound, to focus upon breath, to focus upon contemplation of the mysteries of perhaps the life of Jesus or other mysteries that you find inspired by. This would be to harness the mind to return again and again to presence, as though you were sitting before a vigil candle of yourself. And then when you found yourself off to the left or off to the right, you let the mind bring you back to the focus. What happens with that, as many researchers will show, is there's a focal point that then begins to move beyond the plane of what's conscious, all the constructs. And beyond that plane, we begin to dip down, whether it's through trance, hypnosis, spaciousness, open contemplation, into the realms where the infinite can be experienced directly. So, if you've wondered about your relationship with your own mind, let Teresa be a source of encouragement that loving your mind, being grateful for your mind, and learning how to let your mind be a servant to your greater self, let her example be an encouragement to embrace this relationship with your mind. And a PS on that means it's time to throw all that harsh judgment out the window. And she would do so with great vigor. Now, if you'd like to get to know her more deeply, at the end of this series that's happening for 2 weeks, I'll be offering a 5-week online course that will go into her writings, into her history, the culture of her time, offer weekly meditations, have webinar, and you even get a private session with me. So have a great day. Thank you for joining me and for letting me share with you about a friend that's very dear to my soul.